And how do you feel about delivery robotics? That is our topic for this week's Future Talk with Shara Evans and Liz Buchanan. So welcome, Shara.
Hello, Liz. It's always so nice to see you. And I like your new hairstyle. It looks fantastic. I'm going to continue on my theme of robots that are helping to fight coronavirus. And what I would like to talk about today are delivery bots, whether they are drones in the sky or on the ground, little wheelie bots. So let me show you a couple of examples. This is just an illustration of a drone that can be used to deliver medical supplies. So while this particular graphic is really just a pretty mock-up, in the real world, drones are absolutely being used to deliver medical supplies, especially for coronavirus, in many different parts of the world. So in this picture, we see a drone in an urban environment, and that is a bit challenging because of air traffic control and high buildings, and the fact that some drones are completely autonomous. In other words, they can navigate their way around because they're absolutely loaded up with sensors, and others require line of sight. But this isn't just a prototype idea. The picture is just an illustrative graphic, with a first aid kit, just to illustrate that it's meant to deliver medical supplies. But already there's a company in Japan called Shara that very early on in COVID was delivering medical supplies to different city areas. Now, I haven't seen a whole lot of news reports about that specific drone. I don't know whether it was manually controlled or it's completely autonomous, but I think it's a really fantastic way of getting supplies into areas very quickly. So what do you think about that, Liz?
I think it's fantastic, particularly in the disaster space when people can't get in. It's a great way of being able to deliver products, hurricanes, bushfires, etc. So I think it's a much needed area, particularly in the disaster space.
Well, you've just given me the perfect segue to the next drone that I wanted to talk to you about, which is actually designed initially for disaster delivery.
Well, there you go.
Yes. So I'm going to share my screen. This is a drone from a company called Matternet, and I started tracking them all the way back in 2014 when their CEO had this idea that, hey, we've got so many people in parts of the world where the road systems are constantly being washed out by adverse weather conditions. And when that happens, it can be weeks or more before you're able to get medical supplies or be able to take blood tests or do anything. Wouldn't it be great if we had a completely autonomous drone that had a really easy to use smartphone-based application that allowed somebody to control this drone, even if they really didn't even have a lot of smartphone knowledge, much less robotic knowledge. So it's completely autonomous. The pictures that I'm showing you here were taken a few years ago, and it's a very common scene if you've been in any part of the third world where roads get washed out. This picture on the left was taken in PNG. But I've been in places in the Amazon jungle where I've been on these kinds of roads and they've had villagers rush out to get our vehicle unstuck from mud. But you can just imagine if you couldn't get medical supplies. Well, in the time since Matternet has started to develop their drones. They've, of course, advanced their concepts to a great degree over the last 6 years. And they are currently doing a trial in conjunction with the U.S. Post Office Flight Forward service. And what they are doing is partnering with the U.S. Post Office, a pharmacy called CVS, and a retirement village in Florida that's one of the biggest in the world. It has about 130,000 people, to deliver medications to people using their autonomous drones. And this is something that is happening now in the midst of COVID. And along the way, they've also designed a superstation, if you like, where you can preload packages and have multiple packages ready to go. So their drones are getting more and more sophisticated. And I think that this is another interesting development.
Fantastic. I can see some huge benefits in the disaster space for that one especially.
Yes, and I'd like to just show you one last kind of delivery bot that you may not have seen just yet. And this is a bot that is capable of doing food or other consumer good deliveries autonomously, either on a bike path or in a car lane. And this is from a startup company called Refraction, and the name of this delivery bot is called Rev1, I guess because it's the first time that they've put this one out. It reminds me of a tricycle, really, and there's an application that you use with it, and it's passcode protected, so you'll get a message on your phone when the drone is approaching your house. And as you can see in this picture of the house, there's steps and there's, a little terrace and so on. The drone doesn't go up the steps and knock on the door, but what it does is through the app, it tells you that the drone is outside your house and it gives you the code to be able to unlock it and retrieve your goods. There are a lot of delivery bots that are being trialed in many places around the world, and this is just one of them.
Fantastic. There's some huge benefit of that one, particularly for COVID and when contactless, etc.
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea, especially right now, is that the less people that touch an item, the less likely it is that we'll be spreading the contagion. But unfortunately, I think there's still a bit of a human element even with these delivery bots, because they're not being, to my knowledge, preloaded by robots, taking things off of shelves robotically, sticking them into the drone robotically, programming them with the destination, and so on. There's some level of human intervention in that. And of course, whenever you've got humans involved, then you still need to go through the process of being careful what you touch. You may not have to wear a mask, but I probably would just to be safe, and I'd be wearing latex gloves, and I would do my normal sanitization routine of all of the things that I take out of the compartment, just like I do when I come back from the grocery store. I go through this whole rigmarole these days of making sure that everything has been appropriately sanitized before I bring it into my main household area. But it's one of the tools that I think will be really important for us in trying to keep a lid on COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was some fantastic information, but we've run out of time.
Again.
So,
see you next week, Liz.
See you next week. Thank you again.
Thanks, Liz. Bye.